Section 1. The temptation begins. I never thought my life would take such a turn. For years, I believed loyalty and trust were the foundations of every relationship. I was committed, careful, and cautious about the choices I made. But somewhere along the way, a quiet emptiness grew inside me. My partner was good to me in many ways, yet there were moments when I felt unseen, like my emotions, my needs, and my presence were fading into the background of his busy life. That emptiness made me vulnerable, even though I didn't want to admit it at first. Then he came into the picture. My boyfriend. Not the one I had promised myself to, but someone who slowly crept into my life when I least expected it. He was different. He listened in ways my partner no longer did. He laughed at my smallest jokes, noticed when I changed something about myself, and had a way of making me feel like I mattered again. It started innocently, as these things often do. A smile here, a late-night conversation there. But soon those conversations grew longer, and his presence began to feel like oxygen I didn't know I had been missing. I told myself that I was only enjoying the attention, that there was no harm in it. But the truth was much heavier. Deep inside, I could feel the dangerous pull of temptation. And I didn't resist as much as I should have. The first time we were truly alone together, I felt my heart race in ways I hadn't felt in years. There was a silence between us that spoke louder than words. He leaned closer, testing the fragile boundary that still existed between loyalty and betrayal. I should have stepped back. I should have remembered the vows, the promises, the trust of the person waiting for me at home. But instead I froze, torn between the life I had built and the thrill of the moment. When he finally reached for me, the tension was undeniable. It wasn't smooth and it wasn't perfect. In fact, it was hesitant, almost clumsy, like he too knew the weight of what we were doing. For a brief moment he pulled back, as if asking me silently whether he should stop. And in that moment my choice became clear. I didn't tell him to stop. I didn't walk away. I let him try, even though my conscience screamed at me. But it didn't go the way either of us expected. Nerves got in the way, hesitation clouded the air, and nothing seemed to fall into place. In the end, we both sat in silence, the room heavy with unspoken words. It was a failed attempt, and yet the damage was already done. A line had been crossed, even without success. As I left that night, my mind was spinning. I told myself it was over, that this mistake would be buried in silence. But as I walked away, his eyes lingered on me, full of determination. And in that gaze, I knew this wasn't the end. Section 2. Crossing the line. The days after that night felt heavier than I could have imagined. On the outside, nothing had changed. I still woke up beside my partner, went about my daily routines, and pretended everything was normal. But inside, my heart carried a secret that weighed like a stone. I replayed every moment of that night in my head. The hesitation, the awkward silence, the way I didn't stop him even when I should have. I told myself it was a mistake. A one-time slip that I would bury deep, never to resurface again. But his presence made that impossible. He didn't let it fade away. Instead, he reached out more often, sending small messages, calling me just to hear my voice. Each time I tried to distance myself, he pulled me back in with his charm, his attention, and that undeniable way of making me feel alive again. When we met again, the tension was different. There was no more nervous silence. Instead, there was a quiet determination in him, and a fragile weakness in me. He looked at me as if I was the only thing he wanted in the world, and for a moment I allowed myself to believe it. "I don't want to give up on us," he whispered, his words trembling with both desire and sincerity. "Last time wasn't how it was supposed to be. I want to try again." My heart pounded. Part of me wanted to say no, to walk away before things went too far. But the other part, the one that craved love, attention, and the thrill of feeling wanted, won the battle. I nodded, even though my mind screamed that I was walking into fire. This time he was patient. He didn't rush, didn't let nerves get the better of him. He treated me with a gentleness that disarmed me completely. The hesitation was gone, replaced by trust, by a dangerous intimacy that grew stronger with every passing second. I could feel myself slipping further away from the person I was supposed to be. And yet I didn't stop. As we crossed that forbidden line, I realized what I had done. There was no going back now. I had given in, not just in body but in heart. The guilt washed over me almost instantly, but it was tangled with something else: relief. For the first time in so long I felt seen, cherished, and alive. But underneath that temporary comfort was a shadow I couldn't ignore. I had betrayed someone who trusted me. I had stepped into a world of secrets and lies, and once inside, there was no simple way out. When it was over, I sat in silence, staring at the floor. He reached for my hand, squeezing it as though to reassure me that everything would be fine. But in my heart, I knew things would never be the same. Section 3. The weight of betrayal. The morning after was the hardest. I woke up beside my partner, and for the first time I couldn't even look at him the same way. His familiar smile, his casual words about work and life, it all felt like a mirror reflecting my betrayal. I nodded, I smiled, I pretended to be the person he believed I was. But inside I was breaking apart. The guilt clung to me like a shadow. Every time he reached for my hand, I felt the weight of the secret pressing down on me. Every time he told me he trusted me, it was as if a knife twisted deeper into my heart. I wanted to confess, to tell him the truth, but fear silenced me. The truth would destroy everything we had built, everything we shared. So instead, I carried the lie and let it eat away at me from within. My boyfriend, however, seemed unaffected. To him, what happened between us was the beginning of something real, something stronger. He grew more confident, more demanding of my time. He wanted to meet more often, to hold me, to have me in ways I knew were dangerous. His eyes no longer carried hesitation, they carried expectation. At first, I convinced myself that I could manage it. I told myself that I could separate the two worlds. My life at home, built on trust and stability, and my secret life, filled with fire and desire. But reality wasn't that simple. The two worlds began to collide. I became distracted, distant. My partner noticed. "You've been quiet lately," he said one evening, looking at me with genuine concern. "Is something bothering you?" His words made my chest tighten. How could I answer? How could I tell him that while he worried about my silence, I was drowning in guilt from betraying him? I forced a smile and shook my head, blaming stress, blaming exhaustion, anything but the truth. He accepted my answer, but suspicion flickered in his eyes, and that scared me more than anything. Meanwhile, my boyfriend pushed harder. He spoke about a future, about being together without secrets. "You can't keep living two lives," he told me. "You deserve happiness. And I deserve all of you." Those words, instead of comforting me, made me feel trapped. I realized then that what had begun as a thrill had turned into a burden. The secrecy, the lies, the constant fear of being caught, it was suffocating. What I once saw as freedom now felt like chains. The worst part was knowing that the walls were closing in. My partner's questions grew more frequent, and the guilt made my every action suspicious, even when it wasn't. And one evening as I walked into the house, I caught him staring at me differently. His eyes sharp, searching as though he already knew. In that instant my heart froze. I realized that secrets never stay hidden forever. The truth has a way of clawing its way out, no matter how deeply you bury it. Section 4. The aftermath and realization. The tension in my life grew unbearable. Each day, I woke with a heavy chest, dreading the moment my partner's suspicion would finally turn into confrontation. He hadn't said much, but his silence carried weight. His eyes lingered too long. His questions came too carefully. He wasn't accusing me, but he was watching, waiting. And that was worse than anger. It was the quiet doubt I could no longer erase. On the other side, my boyfriend grew restless. He wanted more. More time, more promises, more of me. He was no longer satisfied with stolen moments. "I can't keep being your secret," he said one afternoon. his voice sharp with frustration. You have to choose. Him or me. Those words echoed in my mind long after he left. Choose. The thought twisted my stomach into knots. I wanted to believe I could hold on to both, that I could keep the stability of my home while indulging in the thrill he gave me. But deep down I knew the truth. Living in two worlds was destroying me, and sooner or later one would collapse. The collapse came sooner than I expected. One evening my partner asked me a simple question. Where were you today? His tone was casual, but his eyes pierced through me, as though he already knew the answer. My throat went dry. I lied, of course, fumbling with words that didn't even sound convincing to my own ears. He nodded slowly, not arguing, not accusing, just watching. That look told me everything. The walls were caving in. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing how fragile everything had become. The thrill I once craved now felt like poison. I had risked the love and trust of someone who stood by me for years, all for moments that left me hollow afterward. My boyfriend's charm, his passion. They were real, yes, but they were not enough to replace the stability and history I already had. The next time we met, I ended it. My voice shook, my hands trembled, but I forced the words out. I can't do this anymore. It's destroying me. It's destroying everything. His face hardened. He tried to argue, to pull me back in, but I stood my ground. For once, I chose silence over fire, stability over chaos. Walking away from him was painful, but staying would have been worse. I returned to my partner, carrying the weight of secrets I may never confess. Perhaps he already knew. Perhaps he was simply waiting for me to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. I don't know if I will ever regain the trust one lost, even if he never speaks of it. But I know this. Temptation may feel sweet in the moment, but its aftertaste lingers bitterly, long after the thrill fades. In the end, I learned that infidelity is not about passion. It is about emptiness, about seeking something outside instead of facing what is broken within. And no matter how carefully you try to hide it, the truth always leaves its mark.